And XRP, of course, anchors around $2 right now. We all know we're trading around 185 to 190. But this bank charter goes into play. Now, granted, right now it's a bank for eventually institutions, but I think at some point we're going to see next level banking coming out of Ripple. And when that occurs, institutional validation is going to be off the hook for XRP. What do you think happens next move from Wall Street based on Ripple's banking charter, if in fact we get to see more power coming out of that strategy?
You know what I find most interesting, Paul, and maybe it's a clickbait kind of title, but it's a supply shock narrative. And here's the logic behind that. You already have these ETF issuers, and Jay Klaver shared this on one of his live streams the other day. Each one of these ETF issuers needs to get to $100 million in assets under management before these big companies can write them a $10 million check. And the logic behind that is that no single investor can own more than 10% of the ETF. So before these large companies can even really get allocated, a company like Canary Capital has to go out there and get $100 million worth of assets under management. You also have the company in Evernorth, which is creating an XRP treasury strategy. I believe that's going to expand well beyond $5 billion in 2026. Then you have the EVM sidechain. Then you have the smart contracts. You also have Ripple building real world use cases on top of the XRP ledger. And I think the icing on the cake is that if they get this national banking charter, which we know they did, they're going to be able to bring traditional banking, they're going to be able to modernize the traditional banking rails through the companies that they've acquired here. So it's really interesting how it all comes full picture. There's not a single leadership team like Ripple in the entire blockchain space. And I'll double down on what the Grayscale guy had to say on your podcast earlier this week. This is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime shift in finance, right? This will not occur again in the next 10 years. This will not occur again in the next 25 years. It may not even occur again in the next 80 to 100 years. So I think we have to be extremely patient. And as these building blocks are laid out and the foundation is laid for the future of finance, Ripple is clearly giving us the picture that they're going to acquire existing companies, bring those businesses onto the XRP ledger, and inherently increase demand for the underlying asset in XRP, even if they're only using the RLUSD stablecoin. So I didn't even touch on tokenization in that whole dialogue, but I think it's very, very clear that if people are patient enough, we're going to hit this euphoric moment where the amount of XRP in supply doesn't correlate with the amount of demand that's in the market.